Please introduce yourself and what it is that you do.
Okay, so my name is Battye. I am a myotherapist, and so I've had about 4 years of experience in this industry. I'm now branching off doing my own thing, just trying to provide healthcare to the general public, and I think that's pretty much just about it.
So please tell us what myotherapy is and how it can help someone.
Okay, so what myotherapy is the simplest way to do it is to break down into 2 words. So you look at myo, is muscle, and therapy, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. So myotherapy is essentially the musculoskeletal therapy. One of the biggest things that we do is a lot of soft tissue work, so a lot of massage-based work. Involved, a lot of the stuff that's involved with that too is things like dry needling, there's cupping. It's a very high level assessment and treatment style of therapy. We just essentially try and provide healthcare for musculoskeletal injuries and try and rehabilitate those injuries as well.
So what are some of those injuries that would require it?
So some of the injuries that people would get, for example, would be muscular strains that they may get in a sports environment. Some of the things that people get in office work environments, for example, so poor posture due to sitting for prolonged periods, as well as just general aches and pains that they may get in the muscular sort of region.
And what sort of training is required?
So the training that's required is, we need about 3 years of training. So the first year is usually the Cert 4 of massage therapy. The second year is the remedial massage diploma, and the third year is advanced diploma of myotherapy. However, there are certain variations between different universities. For example, I've got the advanced diploma of myotherapy, whereas there are other universities that do the Bachelor of Health Science clinical myotherapy.
Do you use equipment, and what sort?
Yeah, so the equipment that we use, there's dry needles, so they're acupuncture needles, and what's involved with that is we insert the dry needle into the muscle or into the trigger point, for example, of the muscle. There's cups, so we use the cupping technique that Chinese medicine doctors may use. We do it as our own sort of variation. Me in particular, I'll move it around the body a fair bit more, whereas the Chinese medicine, they'll most of the time use the flame cupping, and they'll sometimes cause the bruising as well. There are other things that we use in the exercise rehabilitation region as well, so therabands are usually quite a popular a tool that myotherapists may implement. I guess that's basically, they're the main sort of tools, but the main thing that we use are our hands, and
So why did you become a myotherapist?
The best way to answer that was when I became, the reason why I became a myotherapist, when I was studying, I was really interested, when I was in high school I should say, I was really interested in the human body and really interested in the biomechanics of the human body, and it just sort of took on from there. I met up with someone that was actually teaching myotherapy, and he just explained the different things that you can get into, the different areas of health that you can get into, and just the high level of elite sports that you can work with, and it just sort of took on from there, and I just started getting really fascinated with the stuff that we can do, and even to this day I'm still learning a fair bit of what we can do, and it still fascinates me every single day. It's just a constant learning environment, which is a privilege to have.
When seeing a new patient, what does a myotherapist need to know?
So the first thing that I would actually do for a client that's first walking in the door is I get them to take a client history intake form. So what they'll do is just write down their main sort of health details that may be relevant at this certain time. From there, I will go through an assessment according to their injury or pain that they're experiencing. And we'll pretty much go from there. So the assessment might involve certain movement screening things, how far they might be able to take their joints, where pain might be elicited in some movements, and from there we may even go into more specialised testing, which may involve strength testing or neuromuscular testing. And then we get stuck into the treatment from that, and if there's any other assessments that need to be done, we will carry that on to the next treatments. And if there's anything that stands out as a red flag, we'll refer. And what I mean by red flag is if there's anything that we see that we're unable to treat, that may be an issue that could actually hinder us from treating, then we may refer on to other people.
What proof is there that myotherapy works?
That's a very good question. Alright, so I guess with myotherapy, it is a very young modality, or a very young therapy I should say. The evidence is probably not so much in myotherapy itself, it's probably the actual treatments that we use. So we all know the benefits of massage. So obviously that's one of the biggest things that we do. And with that, just the soft tissue therapy in general. Dry needling has the biggest evidence base out there at the moment. That's the one that is one of the biggest tools that we use. So that's one of the biggest things that people are trying to boost and trying to get more research with. So there is still a fair bit of research that needs to be done. But with the massage-based stuff that we do, the soft tissue work that we do, that probably has the biggest amount of research. If you were to go through the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which is the top of all journal article providers out there, you will be able to find a lot of research that's being done through the myotherapy profession. And from there, it'll go off onto the umbrella things that we, or the umbrella modalities that we treat from that. So like the soft tissue, dry needling, the cupping, exercise rehabilitation, etc. So yeah.
Are your clients able to claim myotherapy on health insurance or Medicare?
Yes, we can. So Medicare, no, unfortunately, because that's classified as public health, where we're not public health providers, we are private health. So yeah, anything, any private health insurance is, we're able to claim. GMHPA are the better ones because they actually recognise us as separate providers, whereas a lot of the other insurance companies don't see us as an individual provider. The only provider I've had an issue with are HCF, and I think that's mainly just because they are not-for-profit. I think, however, that has possibly changed in the last couple of months, but I haven't really seen too much of HCF, but yeah, we can definitely get the private health rebates.
What is your favourite part of being a myotherapist?
Favourite part of being a myotherapist? Every single day is listening to people's stories. I love interacting with people. I love just the challenge that comes with trying to treat people, and I just enjoy that general interaction and just trying to work together the pieces of a puzzle. And when you get that success of actually helping someone and knowing that you were the one that actually provided that healthcare that otherwise they were unable to seek, that's a really rewarding thing, and that's something that just stays with you all those sort of positive things that people say. Yes, you helped me with all that pain, and yeah, that's just one of the most incredible things.
So do you have a story about a patient that's been successful?
Yes, I have a few. So even just recent times through, from working through here, I've had a young gentleman that is very heavily into his weight training work, and he had issues with his knee. He had so much issue that he actually couldn't do the thing that he loved, which was lifting heavier weights and squats and deadlifts and stuff like that. Yeah, after doing assessments and treatment and everything that's involved in the myotherapy practice, I guess we went by trial of error as well. So we realised that, okay, this thing works, so we stuck with that. After a couple of sessions, most of his pain was gone, and he was able to get back into his lifting. So much so that he's actually able to compete now, and he's actually doesn't need to wear a brace where he otherwise would need that brace for his knee. So yeah, that's one of the many, but that's one of the main ones that I remember from just recent times. Yeah.
Do you work alongside other therapists and therapies?
Yeah, actually, something I really enjoy doing is working alongside other therapists. So chiropractors is a big one that we actually work alongside with, because their technique or their style of treatment is very different to what we do. So that is really, really good to have, I guess, both best of both worlds. They work with the joints, we work with the muscles. Podiatrists, personal trainers, anything under the sun of treating osteopaths, yeah, we can work alongside with GPs, things like that. Yeah.
So how easy is it to access myotherapy? And do you need a referral?
No, you don't need a referral. People can literally walk off the street into the clinic and come in and we can treat. Like I said, we do a fair bit of assessment that can distinguish between what's we can treat and what we can't treat. So even if people do come in off the street and they come in for a treatment, and if there are any red flags or anything like that I would say otherwise get people to refer onto a GP, then yeah, we will refer to them, but no one needs to refer to us. And even in those instances where someone does come to me and they have a red flag and I need to refer, then that's completely at no cost. So they'll get their money back for that. So yeah.
I don't know how we're going to do this. There's a question here. Show us some exercises for people who sit in chairs all day.
Alright, so, okay, yep. So, for example, if people are sitting in chairs a lot of the time, the posture that really becomes most prominent is the rolled shoulder posture. And this is really, really common because office work is really a common occupation out
So
there.
the shoulders become rolled forward. What can happen from this is everything through the front here becomes tightened, and then the head wants to come forward. So all the muscles through the back of the neck becomes tightened. A really, really simple one, actually another thing too is they are at multiple computer screens a lot of the time. So they'll be constantly looking one side to the next, one screen to the next, and just constantly moving their head side to side. So as you can imagine, all these muscles through here just become overused. As well as this, they might have their phone on the right side and they'll be constantly tilting their head to one side, or the mouse on that side. So all that right side might become sore. The same thing on the left side if they're left-handed. One of the things they can do if they do get pain from this, or through this muscle here, really, really simple exercise, and there's actually two variations of this. One is to simply grab the bottom of the chair, and what that does, it anchors down the shoulder blade. So they grab the bottom of the chair or they sit on their hand, and then from there they just simply take their head across to the opposite side. What that does is, first of all, anchoring that shoulder blade, it stretches all through this muscle through here. So you can probably even see this muscle through here. It's really quite taut. So that's a really good stretch for that. The other variation of that is for them to grab onto the back of their neck, and that does the same thing. That actually anchors down the shoulder blade, and then they tilt their head once again to the opposite side. They might get more of a specific stretch, or even the one grabbing onto the bottom of the chair might get more of a deeper stretch. Either way works, and yeah, whatever variation works for that person is the one that they can use. So I guess that's one of the very, very many that people can do.
What sort of clients do you see?
So the sort of clients that I see would be, I guess, general public. The thing that I really enjoy treating are hip injuries, so things like sciatica, which is a really common one that people get, is a personal favourite of mine because I've had a lot of success with treating that, and it's something that I love seeing because I love changing people's idea as they've walked in with excruciating pain and walked out feeling quite elated about having someone treat that pain. Yeah, general public, sporting injuries is a big one we get as well because of, obviously it's very easy to get injuries through the sporting world. Yeah, general public, I guess jobs where people are going to be overusing their body as well. So I guess factory workers, if you're constantly standing up on hard surfaces and you're doing a lot of repetition. Labourers such as plumbers, builders and electricians that are possibly getting under awkward spaces and up and down ladders and stuff like that. And office workers, I guess that's probably 80% of the client population is office workers, mainly for the things that I just mentioned before of that overuse and yeah, that sort of thing.
Is myotherapy expensive?
No, it definitely isn't. It can range a lot between the therapists. I'm not a huge believer of charging an arm and a leg to get treatment because a lot of the time people aren't seeking, they just want to get treated. And no, it really doesn't cost you much, and that health care rebate is something that they can claim on too, so they can even sometimes claim 50% or even 60% of the treatment. But no, it definitely doesn't cost that much. It doesn't cost as much as, I guess, a chiropractor may charge or a physio may charge, and considering that I in particular will treat for an hour for that initial and 45 minutes for the ongoing work, considering the hour that they get and the amount of work that they get, yeah, it is quite cheap.
Is there a waiting list to access the service?
Once again, that is dependent on the actual therapist, but for me, definitely not. Like even myself, I actually have online bookings, so people do want to book in then and there, they can just go straight through that, they don't even have to call me. Some therapists do. That is, I guess, the goal is to have a waiting list eventually and start building up that sort of thing. But yeah, no, not generally, no.
Are there any barriers that will stop potential patients from coming to you?
Yeah, I guess the main barriers may be even the actual accessibility of getting in. So for example, if someone has very acute sciatica, they might not actually be able to make it to the clinic, which can be a really difficult thing. I mean, that's probably the only thing I can think of is an injury that's so acute that they may not be able to see me, but even from there are other ways that they can get treatment, and that would just be to go see a GP, and then that GP would probably suggest certain alternatives, like medication alternatives, first of all, just to let that ease off, and then yeah, they would come in to see me if they wanted that long-term pain relief and yeah, get rid of all that pain for them. So I guess guess that's the main barrier I can think of.
Okay, you mentioned it twice, and I don't actually know what it is. I've heard of it, but what's sciatica with you? So just so people know that.
Yeah, alright. So what sciatica is, so there's a nerve that originates around the lower back of the spine, and where it actually branches off, it branches from three original, branches off around that lower back, and it actually goes down behind the leg, in between the muscles of the leg, down to the foot. So that nerve is called the sciatic nerve. Sciatica basically is inflammation of that nerve. And there are a lot of variations that can actually happen with or different causes of that inflammation. It can either come from the lower back itself, so there might be some sort of disc degeneration or even vertebra degeneration of the, that lower back, and it's causing that inflammation of the nerve. There may even be some sort of issue further down the legs. For example, the hamstrings may actually be tethering against the sciatic nerve and causing that issue. But that is essentially is just the inflammation of the sciatic nerve.
Does it hurt? Is there any pain involved in myotherapy?
That can be an interesting one. So it can depend on how the client prefers their treatments. If they prefer soft tissue therapy that's really firm and that sort of thing, then yeah, there can be a little bit of pain. For example, if I was to hold onto a trigger point, which is just a knot in the muscle, then that might actually cause pain to other areas. But by doing that, we actually learn a lot about how that pain has carried and where that, why they're feeling that pain. So yeah, it can be a little bit painful, but it's a lot more beneficial to have that pain now for this short amount of time than that long-term pain that they may be feeling otherwise.
Is there any preparation you need to do before coming to see a myotherapist, and also afterwards? Is there aftercare?
Yeah, I always make sure that people specifically do a lot of aftercare because we want to make sure that the body is quite strong. So if we have a strong body, that's a healthy body. As opposed to before care, no, there's not really too much that needs to be done. I will provide a lot of the aftercare that people do outside of that, and even from that, if there's anything in particular, I'll even show them particular videos of the exercise that they may need to do. But no before care.
Do clients have any out-of-pocket expenses with equipment that they need?
No, definitely not. So there may be certain circumstances, and later on during, I guess, my clinic time here, I might start selling things, but I'll make sure that they'll be quite cheap as well. With the treatment that I do, everything's at a flat rate. So if you're in for the 1 hour initial, that will be a flat rate, and everything that we do is under that flat rate. So the dry needling, the cupping, the exercise rehabilitation work, that's all included in the cost that they can then claim. But no, there's no other expenses. If there are things that I want people to do and they need to go and buy something, I'll make sure that I give them the cheapest alternative for that. But a lot of the exercises will just involve most likely themselves on a mat or on the floor, or even something that they can do at their desk or at their workplace or something like that. So,
what are the needling, dry needling?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we do dry needling is one of the things that we do, one of the tools that we use. Essentially what it is, it's just an acupuncture needle. So each one of these is a separate needle. And they sit in that little guide tube there. What we do, how we implement these is we'll find a trigger point. So like I mentioned before, a trigger point is just a knot in the muscle. And that knot, if you've ever felt like through your shoulders, you feel a knot, sometimes you press on it and it can actually refer to pain. So it might like for example through here, might refer pain up through into the head, cause headaches. What that knot does, it actually stops that muscle from performing at its best, and it can cause that pain and everything. So what we do, we just insert the needle into the actual muscle. The main difference from this in acupuncture, so acupuncturists, they all actually use meridians. So different meridians around the body affect different areas of the body, whereas the trigger points are specifically just that area. When we insert, I like to sort of leave it in for around 10 minutes. You may feel like a dull, sort of an ache if it's hit the trigger point. Muscles may even twitch as well. That's usually a really good response, and it shows that the muscle is wanting to release.
But yeah, that's essentially what dry needling is, and there's different lengths as well. These are just the 30 millimeter lengths. We can go all out to the 10 centimeter lengths. But that's for the bigger muscle groups like the hamstrings, for example. Yeah, that's essentially what dry needling is.
Okay, so the quick questions. Favourite ice cream?
Favourite ice cream? Oh, I love pistachio. Pistachio is the best.
Favourite cartoon?
Oh, favourite cartoon? I mean, Simpsons, you can't go wrong by that, but I love like Family Guy and all those awesome ones.
Favourite Disney movie?
Disney movie? See, that's funny, I'm actually more of a DreamWorks fan.
Favourite DreamWorks movie then?
Favourite DreamWorks movie? How to Train Your Dragon. I absolutely love that. It makes me feel like a little kid when I watch that.
One law you can change?
One law I can change? Oh god, that's an interesting one. I don't know, I don't think I'd like to change any laws, to be honest. I think they're all put in place for a good reason.
Favourite sport team?
Favourite sport team? I mean, you can't go wrong with Geelong Cats. You're in Geelong, you got to go for that. But no, I love Geelong Cats.
Favourite song?
Favourite song? All-time favourite song would probably be Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah.
Pet hate?
Pet hate? Rudeness. I cannot stand rude people, and actually this is probably a pretty bad one, but people that walk slow on the pavement, especially big groups and you're trying to get around them, that's, not a huge fan.
Favourite food?
Favourite food? Pecan pie.
If you could have dinner with one person dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, if I have dinner with one person dead or alive? Alive, I would love to have dinner with probably Denzel Washington. It's probably my favourite actor. Dead? I don't know. Bob Marley would be pretty awesome.
3 things you would take to a desert island?
Bottle of water. A lot of water, I should say. My phone, so I could call someone to get off the island. That would be helpful. Music, I guess. Stop that boredom.
Do you have pets?
No, I don't have pets, but I grew up on a farm, so it's a bit strange not having pets, to be honest.
Are you a cat or a dog person?
Definitely a dog person, hands down.
Happiest moment of life?
Happiest moment of life? I guess each moment of my life is a pretty amazing moment, and I guess my happiest moments are still yet to come, but happiest moment, every time I spend with my family and my loved ones, I guess is a pretty happy moment for me.
Saddest moment?
Saddest moment? I guess that's quite personal to me, but most likely funerals for loved ones, they're usually pretty tough moments for me.
Favourite computer game?
Favourite computer game? Big fan of Grand Theft Auto. On the PlayStation, I loved like those first-person shooters like Call of Duty and that sort of thing. So yeah.
And one useless fact that you know?
One useless fact that I know a lot of facts, to be honest. The first one that comes up at the top of my head was, did you know that giraffes' necks are so long that if they had a hot coffee, it would actually be cold by the time it got to their stomach?
Favourite superhero?
Favourite superhero? A lot about this. I would say Batman, but I don't classify him as a superhero. I sort of classify him as just a hero that happens to be ridiculously rich and strong. So I'd have to say Superman. Superman's definitely my